A Husband's Duty, Chapter 5, Wedding Night, Part 2. Meanwhile, Jinhu was all over the place, trying to come to a truce with the media and his business partners. Coupled with the news of Yumna's pregnancy, the thought of Mirai didn't even cross his mind, nor did he care where she was right now. After a romantic dinner, Mirai followed closely behind Motepyong as he led her to the presidential suite. Surprisingly, it wasn't just any normal presidential suite. It was actually a wedding suite. Under such rushed conditions, Motepyong somehow managed to prepare so much for her. She couldn't help but feel touched by his consideration. If it was someone else, there was no way they would have done the same. Motepyong could sense the nervousness coming from Mirai. He removed his suit jacket as he turned to her and said, "I'll have a shower first, so you can have some time to make your decision. If you're still unsure, we can delay our wedding night," he said. Mira was thankful for his thoughtfulness as she watched him head into the bathroom. But they were already married. What right did she have to make Motepyong accommodate for her childish indecisiveness? She thought. Thinking this, Mira threw open the door and headed into the bathroom. Motepyong looked at her in surprise as she reached out and embraced him in a tight hug. "I do not regret." "Are you sure? Once I have made you mine, you will no longer have the chance to change your mind." Motepyong restrained himself. His deep, sexy voice was enough to strike a chord in anyone's heart, putting them into a daze. "I am certain," she replied. Hearing her response, Motepyong let himself go. With one hand, he grabbed Mirai by the waist and pressed his lips against hers. With his other hand, he undid her dress, which was now soaking wet. Mirai's mind was buzzing. She had never experienced a kiss like this before. One so magical she was losing control. Standing under the shower, Mirai looked up at Motepyong, completely mesmerized. She examined his handsome looks. She noticed the diamond-like mole on his earlobe and his eyes that were looking at her passionately, wanting to swallow her whole. However, even when the time came to take things further, he did not rush. Instead, he wrapped her in a towel and carried her in his arms out to the rose-petal covered bed. Afterwards, his tall body came down on her. He was already wearing protection. However, just as he was about to enter her, he felt an obstruction. Mirai cried out in pain. Motepyong pulled back quickly as he wrapped her in the blanket. He originally thought, since Mirai was in the entertainment industry and she had already been in a relationship with Jinho, this couldn't have possibly been her first time. But the feeling just now, he was sure she had never engaged in this type of activity before. "What's wrong?" Mirai noticed Motepyong had stopped and couldn't help but lift her head up to question him. Her face was blushing attractively. "Let's do it next time." Motepyong was surprised. At the same time, he felt bad for having misunderstood Mirai. "Are you not satisfied with me?" she asked. "If I had continued going, you would have been hurt." Motepyong put on his robe and returned to the bed, trying to control his desires. He didn't want Mirai's first time to be a bad experience. "Why didn't you tell me you had no experience?" he asked. "How was I to bring up something like this?" Mira responded as she huddled up against Mutepyong's shoulder. I knew you would have found out yourself. Anyway, what was that just now? Did we do it? She asked. Regardless of whether we did it or not, you are now Mrs. Moore. You can't escape. After he spoke, Mutepyong stood up, lifted Mirai up and headed for the bathroom. Let me see if you're hurt. Looking at the worried expression on his face, Mirai couldn't help but let out a small laugh and said, You are nothing like how the outside world portrays you. How do you think I would be like? Mutepyong placed Mirai gently into the bathtub and turned on the water. A ruler with complete control over the life and death of his entertainers, a person with no human sense. To other people, I am indeed like that, Motepyong replied. But you are different. Since you are my wife and are so trusting of me, I will show you my true self, he said. However, Mirai, I must warn you. To me, a lie is a lie. If you betray my trust, I will never forgive you. Mirai sat up comfortably, her nose almost touching Motepyong's, and said, What a coincidence. I am the same. That night, their physical relationship had technically only reached halfway, but their hearts had been drawn closer together. The next morning, Mirai woke up to the blinding light of the sun shining through the window. To her surprise, the spot beside her was already empty. Mirai thought Mutepyong had already left, but he was actually waiting for her patiently in the living room whilst flipping through some documents. I have prepared some clothes in the bathroom for you. We will leave after you freshen up, he said. Mirai nodded obediently as she turned towards the bathroom. At that moment, her phone suddenly rang. It was Jinho. Mirai looked at Mutepyong awkwardly as he charmingly lifted one eyebrow and asked, Do you want me to pick it up?